Please welcome A.J. Jacobs to Livewire. Welcome to the show, AJ.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. So my first question for you is really, this is the third in a trilogy of books where you are striving to make yourself better. Where did this impulse come from for you?
Well, I need a lot of improvement.
Do you?
But the way I like to write is to totally immerse myself in my topic and just dive in, become a human guinea pig. So when I want to learn about improving my spirit, I thought, well, one way to do it would be to actually read the Bible and do exactly what it says.
For a year.
For a year.
For
exactly.
a year. Well, so how did you approach becoming the healthiest man alive?
Well, this one, I got a board of advisors, so I had doctors and nutritionists and trainers, and then I wrote down every piece of health advice I could, and there were hundreds of pieces, and I decided I'm going to try to follow them all and see what works and what doesn't, and I'm going to try to improve every part of my body, so my heart, my stomach, my brain, my butt was part of it,
Absolutely.
my hands, so the whole thing.
Yeah, you did finger exercises.
I did.
Point.
I studied with, he calls himself the Richard Simmons of hands. So I have incredibly nimble fingers now.
You learned how to walk as well, correctly.
What's that?
You learned how to walk correctly.
Yeah, I did take walking lessons.
Yeah.
Apparently I was walking incorrectly.
There you go. So one of the things that, in terms of sort of making this happen, that you talk about in the book is this thing called egonomics. Can you explain what those are?
Yeah, well, a part of it is how do you motivate yourself to act in a healthy way? And there's this theory called egonomics. It was came up with by a Nobel Prize-winning economist, and he says that we have two selves, and these selves are at war. We've got the self, the present self, that just wants to sit on the couch and eat Pop-Tarts all day. And then we've got the future self that wants that present self to get off the couch.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep that future self in mind. You got to treat that future self with respect. And I thought this was very interesting, but it's so vague and abstract. How do I make that future self more present? So I actually took my photo, and you can go on the internet and find these sites that will digitally age your photo. So I digitally aged my photo to about 80 years. I look horrible, by the way. I look like I have some sort of biblical skin disease. But hopefully I look a little better than that in real life. Anyway, I put that photo on the wall, and it's really motivated me. It's in a weird way. You know, I look at my older self, and I'm like, I should do something for that guy. I want to be around for him.
Maybe he's having a rough day.
That's right.
You know? Maybe go running today for him. Well, and one of the things that you did in order to better your body was that you created a treadmill desk, and you walked around 1,000 miles while writing this book on the desk. Did writing on a treadmill desk change the way that you wrote in any way?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to do it, but I am totally uncoordinated, and I was able to do it, so I think anyone can do it. And this is a movement. I didn't come up with it myself, but there's a movement of people who work on a treadmill. They're called treadheads, they call themselves. And so I did it, and I think it helped my energy. It kept my energy up. Now the problem is when I try to work at a regular desk, I fall asleep.
Oh,
so
no!
It's had a little bit of an effect that way. But
did
I
you see
love
any difference in your writing when you looked at the stuff that you wrote on the treadmill as opposed
Hopefully it's more energetic. It's hard for me to judge, but hopefully it is. Maybe a couple more typos, but not many.
Yeah. Well, and another thing that you talk about in the book is mental health, and there's this great quote, with some delusional optimism, you'll suffer from, without some delusional optimism, you'll suffer from depressive realism. Can you explain that quote?
Oh, yeah. Well, the studies show, unfortunately, the people with the most accurate assessment of reality are clinically depressed. It's really, So, so I'm not a huge fan of reality. I think that I think reality is overrated. So I am all for delusional optimism, seeing the glass, because I think in reality the glass is like 5% full, maybe. But you got to get delusional optimism to bring it up to 50% full.
Right. And if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Livewire Radio, and we are talking to A.J. Jacobs about his book, Drop Dead Healthy. And in the book, you talk about how you're a warrior.
Right.
A warrior, not a guy with a sword. And a lot of us are warriors. And how did you deal with your worries when you were writing the book?
Well, I had several strategies. One I found very effective. Just to back up, you mentioned it briefly. A few years ago, I wrote an article for Esquire magazine, where I work, called My Outsourced Life.
Yes.
And I hired this team of people in Bangalore, India, to do everything for me. So they answered my phone calls for me. They answered my emails. They argued with my wife for me, which was fantastic. It was the greatest month of my life. So a reader wrote in during this past year while I was trying to be healthy and said, I really like this idea of outsourcing. What if I outsourced my worries to you and you outsourced your worries to me? So we did a worry trade-off. She lived in Portland. She was a young high school student applying to college, and she said, you worry for me about getting into college, and I'll worry for you about meeting your book deadline. And so I was like, all right, this is an interesting idea. And I did it, and I got to tell you, it was so effective. It was great, because I knew someone was worrying about it for me. It was being taken care of. But I didn't have the horrible emotional toll of doing it myself.
And the stress.
Yeah.
Right? And the stress on your body.
That's right. And stress is horrible for you, as you know. So I really do recommend this. Trade worries with someone. It really will change your life.
Well, and it was interesting because you would say that you would start worrying about your deadline, and then as soon as you did, you'd remember that someone else was taking care of it for you. So it turned in, if you do it enough, maybe you'll never worry, except about other people's stuff.
There you go.
Whoever you traded with.
It's the secret to life. That's it.
This is sort of, jumping topics, but can you explain why you had your wife write a check for $1,000 to the Nazi Party?
Yeah, just to clarify before, it was not cashed. But this was a way to stop and break bad habits. And again, this was actually another Nobel Prize-winning economist said, you have to have a big disincentive. And one disincentive is giving away money. If you smoke that cigarette, you have to give away $500. Now, you could give it to a good cause, but if you want a real disincentive, you got to give it to some horrible people. So I asked my wife, I was totally addicted to these dried mangoes, which are allegedly healthy, but they're actually just horrible for you. They're just Snickers
Sugar.
disguised as mangoes. So I said, listen, would you write me a check? Write a check for $1,000 in my name and to the Nazi Party, and if I eat a dried mango, you have to send it. And she's like, all right. She actually got into it. She liked this, and she says she put on the memo, dried mangoes for the Nazi Party, and that.
Didn't she say something like, love A.J. Jacobs in the memo?
I physically could not eat the mangoes because it was such a repulsive idea to me that these guys would be getting, new jack boots or whatever from my money, that I could not eat it. So it is a very effective way to...
It sounds really effective.
Yeah.
But this brought up the idea of your wife. Your long-suffering wife. You actually, at one point when your life was an experiment, you practiced radical honesty for a month where you never lied.
Right,
And
yeah.
then the month immediately after, you did everything that your wife asked you for a month.
That's true. That one she liked. Yeah, the radical honesty she did not like. This was a movement started by a psychologist in Virginia who believes that you should never lie. But he goes farther. He says whatever's on your brain should come out of your mouth. No filter. So I tried that for a month, and it was horrible. It was the worst month of my life. And, to give you an example of what she put up with, we went to a restaurant, and we saw some friends of hers from college, and they said, oh, we should all get together, have a play date with our kids. And I had to say what was on my mind, which was, you seem like nice people, but I just don't want to ever see you again. And that did not go over, because I didn't have time to see my real friend, I thought I didn't, but they were upset. She was upset.
She may have been a little upset about that.
I will say this, though. We have not seen them again, so it was a little bit effective.
Problem solved.
Problem solved. There are advantages to radical honesty.
Your wife's name is Julie. Did Julie have any idea what she was getting into when she married you? Did she know that because her life changes when your life changes?
That is true. Yeah, no, I don't know. She's here. I don't think she did know. She's very patient, though. And, this year of living healthily, she put up with a lot. But compared to the year I followed the Bible, this was fantastic. Because in the Bible, it says you have to grow your beard, so I had this huge topiary on my chin. And there's another part in Leviticus, it says you cannot touch a woman during her time of month. And if you are really paying attention to Leviticus, it says you cannot sit in a seat where a woman in her time of month has sat, because the seat is impure, and then you become impure. And my wife found that offensive, so she sat in every seat in our apartment. And so she finds
Julie.
a way to get back at me, yeah.
So you did so many things over the course of, this was a 2-year period. You did so many things over the course of the 2 years. What were the things that for you now have staying power, that you have integrated into your life?
Well, certainly, I believe I was shocked by how bad sitting at your desk all day is for you. I mean, the studies are really alarming. I just read today about a new donut, a deep fried pork donut. And that is basically, the doctors say, sitting is the equivalent of a deep fried pork donut. It's really bad for you. So when I am sitting at my desk, I try to get up every hour, walk around for a couple of minutes. And as you mentioned, I took it further. I wrote on my treadmill. And also incorporating physical movement, exercise into every part of your day. So, I take the stairs. I started to run errands. That's the phrase, is run errands. So I was like, all right, let me try it. So I would run to the drugstore, buy toothpaste, and run back home.
And you have periodically had pedestrians ask you if you're okay, or if the...
It does terrify some people if, sprinting down the street. But I found it very effective. So those are just a couple. And then in terms of eating, I'm so glad you tried Judaism, even if you're not a convert. I like to say I don't practice Orthodox Judaism, but I do practice Reform Judaism. I do like 15 chews per mouthful, and it's very effective because it does slow down your eating. And
it doesn't just slow down your eating, but it seems to aid in digestion. Like you feel better after you've done that.
There you go. Exactly.
But I'm not a fan of feeling better. I'm really not. So I did want to ask, there have been, I think, 4 books now. Really, there's been, reading the entire Encyclopedia Britannica to help your brain. This book. So you've done all this striving to become a better person. Do you feel like a better person than you were when you first started all of this?
I do feel like a little bit of a better person. I don't want to say like I'm the healthiest person alive, because then tomorrow I'm going to get, river blindness or some horrible rickets. I just know that's the way life works. If you say, I'm doing great, then the next day you're doing horrible. But so far, I do feel better, and then in terms of the Bible, I still lie and covet and gossip all the time, but I think like 30% less. So I think
that's great.
Yeah,
that's a great number.
That's something.
So what's next for you? What's the next thing? What's the next year?
Well, my kids have my kids want me to do a year of eating nothing but candy. They said that was a good idea. But honestly, I'm not sure yet. Usually a month after my current book just came out, so I usually choose it about a month after.
Wow. Well, we're looking forward to it. The book is Drop Dead Healthy. The author is A.J. Jacobs. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
A.J. Jacobs, everybody.